Hey, what's up guys, Totallydubbed here, and today I'm doing a video review for the Philips BDM3490UC. Now this is a massive 34-inch curved display that's a WQHD, that means 3440 times 1440 in resolution, and it is a absolutely massive display which sits on your desk. Now, you can find the monitor on Amazon.co.uk for a whopping £710, and again a whopping $900 on Amazon USA. So this is by far a very, very expensive monitor, if not one of the most expensive monitors I've ever reviewed. Now the panel type, and I'll list these all in the description below, so do check out the links in the description below. It's a IPS LCD display. It runs at, as I said, 3440 times 1440 at 60 Hz. Make sure you run that on a compatible port. For example, DisplayPort 1.2 is what I'm using currently. It's got a quoted response time of 5 milliseconds, but in all honesty, I think it's much more than that, and I'll get into that in just a little bit with its performance part of it. In terms of ports, now I'm just going to quickly take the camera off its tripod. And in terms of ports, you've got various ports at the back of the monitor. As you can see, the massive monitor itself. So you've got MHL HDMI, you've got two HDMI 1.4 ports, and via MHL, meaning you can plug it into your mobile. It has 60 Hz at 1080p compatibility. It's got a HDMI 2.0 port as well, and it's got DisplayPort 1.2 at the back, which I said, as I said, that's the input I'm using at the moment. All of those ports obviously do transfer sound as well, which is always a good functionality, and that is because you've also got two DTS 7-watt speakers over here at the bottom base of the monitor, which actually do produce quite a decent sound, and I've been quite impressed with them, especially with DTS enabled. I'll show you in a little bit. You can enable True Sound HD via the OSD, allowing you to just to hear it a little bit better and have it a little bit more surround sound. For monitor speakers, I was actually very much impressed with it in comparison to other monitors I've previously reviewed, so it's definitely a huge plus there. Now at the back hand side, on the right hand side over here, you've got four USB 3.0 ports, which you can obviously plug into your PC, and one of those are fast charging has fast charging capabilities, meaning you can fast charge your phone, which is a great addition considering all phones nowadays, well, not all phones, but most phones nowadays have support for fast charging. So you've got various different inputs and functionalities there. The last one I should mention is that you got a PC 3.5mm line in. Obviously you can plug in other things in there, and you've got a headphone out, which obviously if you want to plug straight into the back of your monitor rather than the back of your computer, that's always a possibility there. Now that is pretty much all the specs. If you want more details, as I said, look down in the description below and you'll be able to see them. And now let's just jump in straight into the build quality. So the build quality of the monitor is actually fantastic. It's a massive monitor, but despite that, it has a fantastic build, and that really comes down due to its really solid stand. That stand is almost like an alien shape over here on a circular sort of design, but it's made out of metal, and as I said, it's got the bass speaker over here of well, at its base. Now what I really like about it is actually its joystick control, and it can be found right under the Philips logo. The joystick control is obviously to play around with the OSD, and it's very easy to use and very intuitive, and I really like this design from Philips. Rather than touchscreen buttons or little back buttons on the side, you've got just this little joystick which you go left, right, top and down, and it adjusts everything you'd want it to do via the OSD, and I'll show that to you in just a bit. Now the actual monitor itself has got a very thin bezel. When I say very thin, it's almost non-existent at the top and the sides. You do have a little bit of a black contour though, meaning the display doesn't fully extend out towards the bezels. Hopefully you guys can see that on the on the camera. I'll just zoom in just a little bit so you guys can see what I'm talking about. But essentially at the top over here, you've got a black bit over here, and you've got the display, and then you've got the bezel. So it's got very thin bezel, but despite that, it's got a black bit over here, which means that the monitor doesn't feel like it's borderless. Now at the bottom, you've got a little bit thicker bezel, but again, it's nothing to be concerned about, and it's pretty thin, respectively speaking, and it's made out of like a brushed aluminium metal look to it, so it looks really good. So overall the build quality is great, and in terms of the design, you can tilt it to a considerable amount. As you can see backwards, it goes really far back, so much so that my speaker's not allowed to go even further back. So it is massive in terms of its functionalities. Obviously you can't pivot it because of its size, but that's to be expected. So build quality is top notch. And now let's just go into the OSD. So I'll just zoom in just a little bit so you guys can see the OSD and you can see what I'm talking about. But the OSD is really complete. You've got all different sort of functionalities and options. So as you can see, you've got the input, you've got a picture. So in terms of the picture, you can change its smart response. However, when it came to actual performance of the smart response, I found that when I was going down to say fastest, it felt like the mouse was much more responsive. However, when it came to ghosting, there was loads of ghosting that occurred and just made it a little bit uncomfortable when I was gaming. You got pixel orbiting, which is great in order to reduce the overall pixel degradation of your monitor, or the actual burn-in of your monitor. You got pip mode if you want. Audio, as I said, you can customize, and you can see over here you got DTS sound. I prefer to use it on standard with true volume HD on. With it off, it felt like the sound wasn't as engaging, and it wasn't as it wasn't as good defined, but overall the sound was very impressive for the monitor. In terms of color, I left it as color temperature of 6500 Kelvin. It was quite nice, I must say. You can obviously adjust it. I did find sRGB and user defined 100 to be a little bit too reddish, so again you can customize that by reducing the red in the RGB colors, but the color temperature of 6500 seemed to be perfect for me. And then finally, you should go into setup and make sure you got display 1.2, or else your monitor won't be able to display 60 Hz at its given resolution, whereas normally it's going to be 30 Hz. So that is the OSD setup. Now let's talk about the panel. Now the panel itself is fantastic and beautiful to look at. I'll just reduce the EV of my my camera so you guys can see a little bit better. But the monitor is absolutely fantastic in terms of its color reproduction and its color accuracy. I was very impressed. Just scrolling through some wallpapers over here. This one is a prime example. You've got fantastic colors throughout the screen. You've got really deep blues towards the sea or the ocean or the river, whatever it is. I think it's a river, it's in Venice. And then at the top you've got nice white colors over here, which aren't over bloated and are accurate, especially around the building over here. Going into this image, for example, you've got fantastic detail, obviously being its panel quality, but you've got accurate colors. The green is green, it isn't, the grass is green, but it's not overemphasized. And then over here, for example, you've got nice deep blacks towards the end of the forest, and then nice whites at the top. So it's really fantastic in terms of its panel quality, and I was very much impressed. So in terms of viewing, especially in terms of its curved display, it's fantastic, and I would definitely recommend it for movie watching, or if you just want to be a bit more immersed. I must say that I would have preferred to have it a slightly more curve. It doesn't feel that curved, despite being a slight curve over here. I would have preferred it to be just a bit more curved to get a bit more immersion in there, because it does feel quite flat. But anyway, that's just something I felt I should note in comparison to other curved monitors I've previously reviewed. I should mention you don't get much backlight bleeding, but there is some present on the outer edges of the monitor, which is kind of to be expected with a curved monitor of this size. But you don't get any sort of color uniformity on the sides. Uniformity. You get perfect color uniformity is what I'm trying to say on the sides, and you don't get any sort of blurring or certain points of it looking a little odd, where in some curved monitors I've reviewed, I found this to be the case. Now finally, let's talk about its performance. Now the performance, I must say, in terms of the actual gaming performance, I would not recommend it for gaming. I struggled to play Counter-Strike on it. It was very much laggy, that's what it felt like. The monitor felt hard to keep up with the pace of Counter-Strike, and in terms of its response, or I should say input lag as well, it just felt too much. So the input lag just felt too high. So when I was just playing with the mouse, going left to right, in comparison to other monitors I have, I must say that it just didn't perform well, and I would definitely not recommend it for gaming. You can casually play gaming on it, but I would really say casual, really super casual. If you're going to be anything competitive, or if you take gaming a little bit seriously, then this is not the monitor for you. So overall, guys, it's a decent monitor for its given purpose. Unfortunately, due to its really high price tag, I can't really suggest it, just because of the fact that it can't do any sort of gaming. If it had some sort of gaming capabilities but had this beautiful display as well, I could see myself recommending it, but because it's so poor in gaming, it's just very hard to recommend. But it's a nice monitor overall, so just see it as you will, and do let me know in the comments below what you think of it. Alright guys, I've been Totally Dubbed, take care and bye bye.